Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us for the Maryland Arts Budget Briefing webinar for the 2024 Maryland Legislative Session. So quick welcome. I'm Nicholas Cohen, the Executive Director of Maryland Citizens for the Arts. And today's agenda, we'll talk quickly about the Maryland State Arts Council budget proposal from the governor for fiscal year 2025. Also, the State Arts Council's capital budget proposal for fiscal year 25. We'll talk about preservation of cultural arts funds, a newly introduced and drafted Arts Incubator Bill, and then some talking points that we could use in Maryland Arts Day. And then finally, I'll mention a little bit about Maryland Arts Day and hopefully see you there. So I think many of us have heard that this coming budget session in Annapolis was going to be a tricky one. There was a lot of talk about budget deficits, and as we know, in Maryland, you have to balance the state's budget. You cannot finish the legislative session without a balanced budget. And so what that meant for us was a little bit of nerves around would the Maryland State Arts Council receive a potential cut? We did not, in fact, receive that. In fact, the governor proposed $31 million, which is an increase from last year. That's really good news, especially when you consider many other agencies across the state government did receive a cut in one way, shape, or form. So we avoided that, and we saw an increase, which is very, very good news. And within that, $31 million has $1 million from the special fund and NEA, which is the federal appropriation as well. I did want to mention that there are hearings in Annapolis around this proposed budget, on the 1st and 4th of March in the Senate and House, respectively. Maryland citizens will set up panel support for this, and we will speak on behalf and in support of this budget proposal at those hearings. In terms of our capital budget, for many years, we just focused on the operating budget for the State Arts Council, but since we were able to pass a new law that brought capital investment to the Arts Council a few years ago, we now talk about capital budget, since the state of Maryland has both an operating budget and a separate capital one. And the bill that we passed stipulated that for 5 years, each year, $3 million would be put in the governor's budget to fund the Arts and Culture Capital Grant Program with the Maryland State Arts Council. And so again, the capital budget, much like the operating budget, had there was a potential of seeing this program being cut. But again, the governor proposed the full $3 million to fund the second year of the Arts and Culture Capital Grant Program, which is again a great thing to have happen. And the fact that it's still in there and at its full amount is a huge success for us. I did want to mention that the FY24 program, so the first year of this capital grant program with the Maryland State Arts Council, is currently accepting applications. So if you're interested in what that looks like, please check out msac.org for more information. And again, hearings, we now have 2 sets of hearings. As I mentioned, we have the operating in March, and now we have the capital hearings for the capital budget as well. And now you might recognize one of those dates, the 13th. It's in fact Maryland Arts Day, so we also have a hearing on that same day. But it'll be the day before and the day of Maryland Arts Day. We'll have capital hearings in the afternoon. And it's really a great opportunity for us because having everyone down at Maryland Arts Day on a day of a hearing makes our case even stronger. So next, I want to talk a little bit about POCA, or the Preservation of Cultural Arts. So this fund, which was created in 2008 during the Great Recession, originally was created to help struggling arts groups get through that specific recession. And then since that time, Maryland Citizens for the Arts has really tried to move a good amount of that money to the Maryland State Arts Council. And we were successful in getting $1 million enshrined to basically continually go to the State Arts Council in perpetuity. And so now what that has done is it's created the Preservation of Cultural Arts as its own standalone single fund that comes from the admissions and amusement tax. And now this year it's been forecasted, because it's a tax, right? And this tax is still, we're still in the middle of this fiscal year that runs through June, the end of June. So it's forecasted to be about 1.3 million. As I mentioned, it acts as a separate line from the Maryland State Arts Council. Now, what we could do though this year, since it's separated out and it kind of has been put in the budget, we as advocates can ask that a portion or all of it be transferred to the Maryland State Arts Council as an investment and a further investment in our sector. And it seems like this is the right year to do that, as lawmakers are looking at that fund and seeing how best to invest it. And we believe that the State Arts Council is that steward of funds and we know equitable investment in our sector, so we're hoping that it'll be transferred directly to them. I also wanted to mention a new bill that's been drafted called the Arts Incubator Work Group Bill, drafted by Senator Hayes from Baltimore City. This basically wants to look at studying how arts institutions and local artists can work together to give local artists more of an opportunity to play on and in our amazing venues throughout the state of Maryland, but at the same time acknowledging that those very artists need to be paid and paid well. And also those arts institutions have large overhead from doing such events. So this work group would actually set out to look at what those costs are and how and what kind of money is needed to support an endeavor like this. And so a work group will have 9 members appointed, some by the governor and some by the House and Senate. And it'll include artists, teaching artists, and administrators representing both small and large arts organizations, as well as county arts councils. So it'll be a great cross-section of our sector. And in this bill, they are looking to have an initial recommendation or recommendations in October of 2024. And then those recommendations will be worked through by the General Assembly, Maryland General Assembly. And then the work group would then have an additional year to kind of have dialogue with the General Assembly to figure out what specific asks and laws need to be passed, specifically around funding, to fund whatever the work group comes up with as far as a program. So that bill is really exciting, and I think that's something we're kind of waiting to see. It has not been given a bill number. There's no cross-filing in the House. So we're going to wait, and hopefully by Maryland Arts Day we might have a little more information. But I did want to share, we do have talking points specifically for this session and for the 2024 General Assembly. So we're asking first to please support fully funding the Maryland State Arts Council at the mandated level of $31 million, to support fully funding the Arts and Culture Capital Grant Program at $3 million from the capital budget, and the transfer of $1 million from the Preservation of Cultural Arts to the Maryland State Arts Council. And again, with this one, I know I referenced $1.3 million as a potential amount, forecasted amount, but for us, it's more important to ask the lawmakers to consider the transfer of any money from POCA to the State Arts Council. It just kind of keeps that in their mind and their frame of reference, and then it's really going to be up to them to see what they think is really going to be in that fund. So I do want to mention that Maryland Arts Day is back in person this year after a few years of doing this virtually. So it'll be Tuesday, February 13th, 2024, down in Annapolis. And just as a reminder, registration closes this Friday, February 2nd. So please, if you haven't done so, please visit our website at mdarts.org and register as soon as you can. The morning will be at St. John's Mellon Hall. For those, we do offer free parking at the Navy Yard, and then we do a shuttle bus service to St. John's. We'll offer breakfast from 8 a.m. to 8:45 a.m., and in the morning we'll open. We have Ruby Lopez Harper as our keynote. She is a Maryland State Arts Council counselor and also runs an organization that provides emergency support and funding to independent artists across the country. So she's going to be an incredible keynote speaker this year. Lorna Green is our Sue Hess Advocate of the Year winner, who is the co-founder of Cafe located in Prince George's County. And then we'll also have remarks from Comptroller Brooke Learman, Secretary of Commerce Kevin Anderson, and the First Lady of Maryland, Dawn Moore, as well as some other lawmakers. And then after that, we will then do direct office visits. We're going to break out into counties, and then we'll have specific group leaders go directly to offices in the House and Senate. It's a little different if for those that have been there and done Arts Day in person before. We do not have access to delegation rooms this year, so we are not going to just be sitting in delegation rooms, but instead meeting directly with lawmakers in their offices. So it'll be a really great opportunity, I think, to meet hopefully all of our lawmakers. And if for those that don't know much about the arts, a really good educational moment for them. And then after, we'll have lunch. Again, for those that have been to Maryland Arts Day before in person, we used to do lunch in the Senate building. Again, those rooms are no longer available. So Comptroller Learman has offered the Treasury building. So we're going to host there and do lunch and kind of dismissal with shuttles and shuttle service going back to the parking lot directly after that. So again, I thank you all for listening to today's budget briefing webinar. If you have any questions, please let me know. You can email me directly, but don't forget to register, sign up for Maryland Arts Day. We hope to see you in person in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, February 13th. And thank you so much for supporting the arts.